So, through her unique methodology, Emily Jane empowers business owners to integrate brand design with marketing psychology, creating magnetic brands that captivates and converts as well. So, I'm going to hand it over to the amazing Emily to share all of her wisdom and knowledge with us tonight. So, take it away, Emily.
Thanks, Clorinda. I'm so hyped to do this training for you guys today. I know we were having a bit of a chit chat, all of us, before we properly got started, so I can already tell that the energy is going to be great on this one. But before we do dive in, I just want to know, like, where are all you guys from? Is everyone in Australia? Just put in the chat box and let me know whereabouts you're from. I'm from the Gold Coast, so if we have any other Gold Coasters here. We got Dubbo, New South Wales, Sydney, Newcastle. Oh, yes, everyone's pretty much like New South Wales then, is it? Gympie, Queensland. Oh, no, we got a couple of Queenslanders. Awesome. All right, guys. So the next thing I want to know is how long have you been with Enagic for as well? How long have you been in the company? Drop that into the chat box so I can see like how fresh some of you guys are to the business space and also how seasoned some of you are. Awesome. Clorinda is almost 2 years. Annie joined in March, so almost 1 full year for you. How exciting. Lucy, November 2023. Amazing. What else do we have? 18 months. Awesome. So it sounds like pretty much everyone's either been coming up on 1 year in the business or longer than that from the sounds of it, which is exciting. So the next thing I want to know is on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong do you feel that your current personal brand is? So a 10 would be like it's flawless, there's no improvement possible. And a 0 would be like, I have absolutely no fucking clue what's going on. Help me right now. So give me a sense of where you're at. We got 7, 3, 4. Love the honesty, Annie. What else do we have? 7. Awesome. 0. Okay, great, Co. Appreciate that. Awesome. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to get my screen share up and then we are going to dive into the training that I have for you today. Can I get a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen? Cool. I'll just make that a little bit straighter. Now I got to move your faces back because I lost you guys now. Here we go. Let's fix that. Can see the screen crystal clear? Amazing. Welcome to the personal branding crash course. This is going to be a fun time that you guys are in store for with me. I do ask that across this call, if you are able to put your cameras on and be engaged as you possibly can, then that adds to the vibe. If you're like, nope, I really am in a position where it's just not even safe for me to put my camera on right now, then that is okay. You can leave it off. I do want to mention, guys, that I am also going to give you a little gift for being here live on this training tonight because you could have decided to just watch the replay, but instead you decided to be here, be present, and yeah, be 100% in this for yourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a giveaway straight after this training. And I'm going to, everyone who posts a photo of this training on Instagram and tags me at Empower with Em will go into the draw to win a branding audit by me. So what I'll do is I will go through your entire social media and I will record an in-depth audit for you, breaking down absolutely everything that you can do to immediately elevate your brand presence. So if you feel like that's something you want to get your hands on, then make sure you post this on your Instagram and tag me because I will draw it straight after the training. Okay. So let's dive right in. I'm hoping these animations work because we did a little test run, but there we go. Magic. What to expect. Now, we've got a decent chunk of time blocked out tonight. I'm happy to stay on this call for as long as we need, But the three core things that you can expect to take away from this training is to discover the secret weapon that is going to absolutely explode your network marketing businesses. The second thing is to learn how to stand out from the crowd in the oversaturated marketplace. I'm sure you guys can feel that saturation in the industry as though there's network marketers left, right, and center. So the question is, how do you stand out above the crowd? We will answer that today. And the third and final thing is you will get crystal clear on what to do to build your brand over the next 90 days. Okay, so there is a lot that's in store. Now, we will also hold space to do a Q&A at the end as well. So if you do have questions across this training, jot them down. And at the end of this call, we will hold space to go through and answer whatever burning questions you guys have. Okay. Give me a yes in the chat box if that feels good, if you're excited, and if that is something you're looking forward to. Beautiful. Amazing. Oh, yeah, I think I saw something. Sorry, I have my 3-year-old son. That is so fine. I was warned there was lots of mamas in this group, boss mamas. So my name is Emily Jane Sarroff, otherwise known as Empower with M, otherwise known as M. And I originally started as a architecture graduate. I was studying my master's of architecture at 22 years old. And it was at that point in my life where I reached this crossroad where I was questioning why the heck I was even studying that degree when it was making me feel the opposite of what I ultimately wanted to be feeling. I was crying myself to sleep most nights. I was feeling mentally and physically absolutely exhausted. And I decided that I wanted change, but I didn't know what that change looked like straight away. I knew that there were people in the online space doing cool things, creating freedom for themselves, making massive impact. And I knew that was something that I wanted, but I just didn't know exactly how to get it. And then I decided to start my podcast, the Empower with Them podcast. And that was really the thing that just the pin dropped and everything fell into place because that podcast then became the catalyst for me to drop out of my master's degree, quit my 9 to 5 job, and launch a mindset coaching business, helping other people with personal development and really like step into their personal power. That business rapidly grew and I hit my first 6 figures in just 8 months at the age of 22 years old. So that for me was the confirmation that I needed to know that I made the right decision, not finishing my degree and transitioning into the online world. And there was one very core reason why my business grew so quickly. And we are going to be talking about that reason tonight because that comes back to the personal brand that I had built for myself. Now, after making my first 6 figures, I also traveled the world solo for 6 months, which was pretty freaking cool. I traveled Canada, did lots of fun things, and popped over to the US as well, which was just an epic experience for me to really be able to experience, that freedom that I did create for myself in my business. And I've now spoken on stages up to 500 people as well, and am running events of my own in person, and just ultimately on a mission to empower as many entrepreneurs as I can to unlock their fullest potential and just go all in on creating the mission that they want for themselves. Now, was it on this page I put it? No, it was on the next page I put it. I had a little tip for you guys. You'll see it over here. I like to put little fun Easter eggs for you guys. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the awesome stuff that my clients have achieved. And the reason why I want to talk about this is 2 things. One, I want you to know why you should actually listen to me tonight, because for so many of you, this might be the very first time that you're actually meeting me and you might be thinking, who is this overly hypo woman at 6:30, 7 p.m. at night screaming at me about personal branding? Okay. I help my clients build 6-figure businesses through building badass personal brands. And this is just some of the results that my clients have been able to see through this. Hitting their biggest months in business, going viral with their content is just to name a few. Now, I want you to make note of this little scribble I put up here, because a brand hack that you should all be integrating into your social media, into any sort of interaction you are having with new or even existing leads in your world, is to be showing social proof. because social proof is going to build trust. So I hope that this social proof has done its job to show you why you should listen and integrate everything that I teach you tonight. Okay? Alrighty. So I'm not here to waste your time. I know a lot of you are mums and it's probably bedtime for your children, and you're probably, well, some of you most definitely are torn between getting your kids fed and to bed right now. So I am not here to waste your time tonight. Let's get straight into it. I want you to put in the chat box a big fat yes if you are ready to discover the secret weapon that is going to explode your online business this year. Amazing. I love all the S's, Clorinda. If you haven't guessed it already, it is your personal brand. Now, when we talk about personal branding, I am talking about way more than just colors and fonts, right? A person that is one aspect to building a brand, but that is actually not even the core of what a personal brand truly is. I like to describe your personal brand as an initiation. So if you think about what initiation really means, it's the action of beginning something, right? So it's the action of beginning that next level of you, that next level of wealth, that next level of lifestyle you ultimately want to hop into. Now, I know that all of you guys must have some really big visions around what you want to be creating in all of these spaces, because the kind of people that jump on these calls at 7:30 p.m. at night tend to be the big dreamers, right? So I want you to really start to view your personal brand as an initiation to be able to step into all that, really as the gateway to unlocking your fullest potential. So when I talk about this, I really talk about designing the version of yourself that you want to become, but that you also need to become in order to have all these things that you want, right? Because the version of you that has the lifestyle, that has the wealth, well, it's a version of yourself that you have not stepped into yet. Because if the version of you right now was capable of holding those things, then that would be here in your reality in this very moment, which means an initiation needs to happen, right? You need to take that step to actually begin to step into and become that version of self who does have those things. So pop in the chat box for me and let me know, what is the big goal that you want to create in your business in 2025? What is that big fat juicy number that you want to call in? Put it in the chat box, because the initiation starts with actually declaring the thing. And I just watched Clorinda's face when she put 500K in the chat box, and I saw the way her nervous system shut itself. And, that's great, right? That's great that we can have that awareness around where you're not fully, where your body isn't fully feeling safe to declare that very thing. And you know what that means? Declare it more. Talk about it to more people. Speak about it more often. Normalize the fact that you want to make $500,000 this year, right? That's the first step. Deciding and starting to then become the person who can hold that, starting to regulate your nervous system to be able to not just call that in, but actually maintain that as well. So we got 500K, 100K, 200K, 50K. I love this. Does it feel expansive? Does it feel a little bit scary? Let me know in the chat box if it feels scary, that number that you put in the chat box. So exciting. And yes, love it. Rach, 180K. I actually feel like I capped myself, as in you could make that even bigger. Yeah, right? And that's the thing. If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough, right? I love this. Oh, 400K. Amazing. The way you just stepped up then. Powerful, Lucy. So now I want you to start to think about, who do you actually need to become in order to have that? Who do you need to become to have the $250,000 code? To have the $400,000 Lucy? The 180K Rach? the 50K Meg, 100K Annie, and 500K Clorinda. Because when you get clear on who you actually need to become in order to have that thing, that's when you can use your personal brand to help you step into that. This is what your personal brand does, right? We talk about like creating vision boards. We talk about visualizing who we want to be. Your personal brand is essentially an act of doing exactly that, a declaration of who you are wanting to step into. Now, I like to talk about this word perception a lot when I'm talking about personal branding. And that's because personal branding is the art of perception. As simple as that, right? It's about creating a perception that you have of yourself and then also creating a perception that you want other people to have of you, right? So we're playing with perception on two different levels here when we're playing with your personal brands. And both levels are equally as important, right? Because you need to truly believe that that person that you are becoming and that perception that you are creating of yourself is truly you, right? Is truly a version of yourself that you're stepping into. You need to believe and align your self-worth with that identity. But then you also need to make sure that you're crafting a very specific perception that your ideal client wants to see or needs to see in order to take that step forward with you. And there's a really big conversation we can have around that. I don't know if we're going to have it tonight or not. We'll see about having integrity with your personal brand. I made a post the other day, I think it was yesterday, saying like 90% of what you see on social media with people's personal brands is fake. It's just fake. It's positioning in order to sell you, right? And when there's that false facade going on, that's when your personal brand lacks integrity. And I am a huge believer in building personal brands with integrity, meaning the person you are online is the person you are offline. Meaning that the version of me that you're meeting tonight is the same version of me that you'll meet if you ever meet me in person. And so I want you guys to think about when you're building that perception, it's not about faking it, right? It's not about faking anything and putting up any fake facades. It's about intentionally crafting that person that you need to become in order to hold what you want to hold and to call in who you want to call in. And truly living in alignment with that, embodying that. So changing your perception, it isn't about manipulation when it's done with integrity. It's about creation, right? So who do you want to, what is the version of yourself that you want to create and ultimately step into? Now, I want to speak on this little doodle that I've got here. I love my doodles, if you didn't know. I just feel like it makes the whole learning process more fun. And I'm very visual, so it helps me with remembering what to say as well. How you perceive yourself and how others perceive you will influence the result that you see. So I'm going to repeat that again. How you perceive yourself and how others perceive you will influence the result that you see in your business. So in order to actually see a new result, you need to change your perception in order to create that. But the question is, how do we change our perception? Well, in this little diagram that I've got here, we've got a beautiful staircase, right? This is you now. And not to say that this is square one, the staircase could keep going down, but this is just where you're in this very moment, right? And then we've got all of these stairs that lead all the way up to here. And that's your potential. That's the 500K. That's the 250K, right? Now you've got two choices of how you ultimately want to get there. The first path is this red path where you can really take it one step at a time. We move one small level after one small level after one small level. And that's great if that's the way that feels best to you. But I imagine that because you're on this call tonight, you want to take the shortcut. You want to take what I call the quantum leap and move from this level down here all the way up here in one easy swoop. Who would like to take that path? I want to see a show of hands. Yeah, awesome. Well, that's the path that your personal brand has the potential to take you on. It is up to you whether you want your brand to allow you to grow one step at a time, or if you want it to just completely quantum leap your identity and go from the person that you are now to the person who has that business, that number that you've said that you want to have. So let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. Why do you believe that most network marketers fail to make money in their business? Any ideas at all? They give up. Yep, they give up for sure. Quit too early. They don't see the immediate return and then they turn around instead of doing the work to actually learn the skills and get the result. Their self-belief, not showing up. They're not authentic in it for themselves. They're not consistent. They don't stick around, mixed messages. Yeah. Hiding behind a product. Yep. Not actually showing them their true selves. And they're not clear on their brand and it's not coherent. Yeah. Not strong enough brand. Awesome. You're all pretty bang on there. But there's three reasons that I really want to like draw your attention to tonight in particular. The first is they're too focused on selling rather than building a brand, right? They're shoving the products or they're shoving the business opportunity in everyone's faces without actually building any awareness, building any relationship, building any trust, right? They lack identity and become too copy and paste, right? We see that a lot. In fact, I dabbled in network marketing before I got into the coaching space. And I literally remember my upline would have like a Google Drive folder where she would dump all of her B-roll from her like luxurious lifestyle. And she would say to her team, go use my B-roll in your content and position this as what is possible for you if you join the business. Now, all of these people weren't even making money yet. How out of integrity is that? Right? So what that was a sign of individuals lacking identity and literally becoming copy paste of their uplines. Right? Now, the third and final thing is they don't have a clear message and therefore they don't attract the right audience. Having a clear message is so important because that is going to call out the who that you want to be calling out, right? Rather than just throwing a big net and trying to catch anything, having a clear message is like throwing a fishing line with a very specific bait on the end to catch the very specific fish that you want to catch. That was a great analogy I just made up then. This is why I love these trainings because just new things flow, you know? All right. So let's have a little bit of a chat about the ick. A little bit of a chat about the branding ick, aka the cheese touch. Can I see some yeses in the chat box if you guys know the Diary of a Wimpy Kid and you know what the cheese touch is? Surely you all do, since a lot of you are mums. No fucking ID, Co. You're gonna have some fun watching this movie with your child one day. Yup, Meg gets it. Clorinda. Clorinda! Movie night with your children. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I actually read the books. I read the books when I was in primary and in high school. Okay, so I'm going to explain the cheese touch to you anyway. So it's so fine if you don't know what this is. But essentially, Diary of a Wimpy Kid set in a school, and there's this like basketball court, and one day at lunchtime, a kid had like a cheese sandwich, and the piece of Swiss cheese fell out of the sandwich and onto the basketball court. Now, the cheese sat there for days, scorching in the heat of the sun. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and as you can imagine, that cheese began to grow very, very furry. Now, one day, this kid, which was probably the Emily of the school grounds, decided it would be funny to touch the cheese. And so he walked up to it, to the moldy, sweaty, melted cheese that's now a permanent feature of the basketball court. And he grabbed his finger and he touched it. And what happened was he caught the cheese touch. Because as people witnessed him touch that cheese, all of a sudden they went running in fear of him touching them with that finger. And what would happen if he touched you with that finger? Well, you would have the cheese touch. So whoever had the cheese touch, all the other kids in the school would go running, screaming from them. So how does this relate to your branding? Well, the ick applies to all industries. And the ick is essentially marketing really, really, really freaking hard, selling, 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 selling without building a brand first. And so this is you over here doing that nonsense, right? Trying to sell left, right, and center without building a brand. And this is the effect it has on your audience. They go running in the opposite direction. So if you've been selling, selling, selling without doing intentional brand building, and you're wondering, why the heck am I not making any sales? I'm doing the do, I'm promoting my product, I'm putting the call to actions out there, I'm asking for the sale, but no one's biting because you got the cheese touch, right? So really what we want to be doing is we want to be building our brands so that we can build the like, no trust factor, so that then when you do that direct activity of like promoting your product, promoting your business, and asking for the sale, people don't go running in the opposite direction. Make sense? Beautiful. All right. Building a personal brand is a long-term game. So what do I mean by this? The goal is to ultimately build a brand quickly so that you can start converting sales quickly. But your personal branding is something that is always going to be happening in the background. Now, we need to understand two different concepts here. We need to understand the difference between branding and marketing, right? Branding and marketing are not the same things. And I'm going to explain to you guys the difference because I feel like this is something that goes over so many people's heads and then they just don't understand why neither one is working properly for them. You ultimately need to pair your branding and marketing together strategically in order to actually see a result. So if there's one thing that you take from this training, I really, really, really want it to be that building a business is not just about selling. In fact, if you're trying to sell without doing the foreplay, the groundwork of building the brand, you're never going to see the result that you want to see. It's ultimately about building a brand that allows you to sell, building a brand that elevates the results that you see from your marketing, your sales activity. The success of your marketing, the success of your sales activity is going to come down to the level of branding that you have integrated first. So building a brand is a long-term game. But here's how you can start making sales quickly. Okay. Now, I've already asked you guys the question of how many of you have been in business for over 90 days. Like all of you have been in business for over 90 days, which is great. It seems like you're all quite seasoned right now. So what is this? Oh, that's a That's a reminder for me for something I wanted to add in for next time. So we'll just give that for a second. This is what we needed to go to. I'm always like, how can I improve this training? Forgets that I wanted to improve this training. Okay, so I've already spoken to you guys about like how long you've been in the business, which is great because it seems like all of you have already been in the business for over 90 days. But if anyone's like coming into the business brand new, and even if you have been in the business for already a year, you can definitely like take this into consideration. But especially if you're coming into the business brand new, what we really want to be looking at is putting a 90-day branding and marketing integration strategy in place. Okay. So, step one of this strategy is actually to begin to build your brand identity. Okay. So, what you want to do in order to make this happen is post content consistently for 30 to 90 days, speaking into one clear message. Okay. And just to clarify, your message shouldn't just be, the stock standard generic message that, you see in network marketing of, maybe it's, oh, this is the one I see all the time. Start making 10K months right now, but you're not making 10K months online right now, right? How often do you guys see that message where it's like promoting or using your core message of this business will help you start making 10K months, but yet you're not making 10K months yet? So I'm telling you right now, you don't need to use that as a message to attract clients. What your core message should be is like something deeply connected to who you are, what you believe, and the mission that you are on. You don't need to be making a cent in your business to be able to drive a strong, hard message through your marketing, through your branding, right? Florinda, can you pop in the chat box if you know what your brand message is? Otherwise, I'll wing it. Co, if you know yours. Lucy, if anyone thinks they know what their brand message is, put it in the chat box for me because I want to have a little bit of a look at these and see what we can refine. But for me, my brand message is your personal brand is an initiation into your higher self. So everything that I'm posting is connecting back to that message. Now, for a lot of you, your message is probably going to be connected in some way to living a life of more freedom. I imagine for a lot of mums, right? A core message for a lot of mums is, to create more freedom so that you can be present whilst raising your young ones, right? I don't see anything coming in the chat box, by the way. So let me know. Oh yeah, you guys are, there you go. Lucy, yep, that's literally yours, right? And so this is then when we also need to think a little bit deeper in this as well and go, okay, well, if there's like, 6 mums on this call, you all have that same message. How do you stand out? What's your point of difference? Well, this is where we start to go deeper with your brand message and we start to look at your unique story, the journey that you've been on, and extracting those unique elements that we can really integrate into that to create a point of difference as well. Right? I'll let you guys keep dropping them in the chat box if it's coming up. It's all good if you don't have a brand message right now. Showing women and mums that they can have it all. You can still have a thriving career and be an amazing mum. You don't have to choose. Yeah, beautiful example, Clorinda. You don't have to choose. You can have both, right? There was a really great message that I saw from another mom. What they were driving was all focused around mum guilt, right? And so essentially they wanted to be like a stay-at-home mum. And so their message was, you don't have to feel mum guilt for wanting to be a stay-at-home mum. Right. So yeah, great example, Clarinda. Thanks for popping that in the chat box. So what you do want to do is drive that core message. What you don't want to do is hardcore sell in your content. Okay. Because like we spoke about before, that's going to give the ick. So the question is, how do we sell if we're not hardcore selling in our content? Well, this is where we start to look at doing back-end sales. Okay. So for this first 30 to 90 days in your business journey, you're going to be doing a lot of sales through DMs, having conversations, right? You'll be putting some invitations out on your socials, but every single post isn't going to be about asking for the sale, right? So this is where I like to think when you're doing heavy brand building, you are still selling, but it's just a lot more in the back end. right? So it's behind the scenes. Now, step two is really focused on where you're at either in your timeline or in your audience size. So, what we're going to look at is either a 30 to 90-day period of consistent content driving that one solid message home to your audience, or we're going to look at your audience growth, right? And so, audience growth can shorten that time curve, right? So, this is where we then meet this point where we start to shift the strategy that we're focusing on. This is where we start to actually integrate more of a direct marketing strategy. Okay, so the difference between branding and marketing, branding is very much raising awareness, and then marketing is focused on conversion. So marketing is focused on creating the sale. And how do we do that? Well, you should be doing that in campaigns. So you should be aiming to be building the brand, reaching that threshold where then you start to run marketing campaigns. Now, signs that your brand is ready to start running these marketing campaigns, your following is consistently growing, or your audience is active and engaged in your content, right? In the conversations that you're starting. And so if that is the case, then step three is about continuing to build your brand as you integrate your marketing windows. So these little yellow spikes here, these are the marketing windows. They're short bursts of time with very, very intentional marketing campaigns, which are then focused on getting that outcome of selling. And after each campaign, you come back to this point where you revise, you review, you see what worked, you see what didn't work, and then you go again. So who here is currently just selling, instead of selling, revise, review, and sell again, re-aiming and refiring with more precision than you did the time before? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the mistake that most new business owners make is trying to market their offer before establishing their brand, which results in little to no sales. So what that looks like on a graph is like a little flaccid willy, right? It looks like a little bit of a flop on a graph. Most people don't get past step one when they're marketing because they haven't built the brand first. And if the brand is not built, then the marketing efforts aren't going to convert. Okay? So, step one to recap, focus on building brand awareness. Step two, once your brand identity is established, integrate your direct marketing campaigns. And step three, continue to build your brand as you integrate your marketing windows. Okay? Very, very important to have awareness of this, particularly when you're new to business. So when you guys have team members coming in, right, at least for 30 days, make their goal to build brand awareness, to do the heavy lifting on the front end when it comes to driving one core message, when it comes to raising awareness around who they are, what their mission is, what their goals are, what they're working towards, what they stand for, and doing the sales on the back end. Okay? So since most people don't make it past step one, why don't we spend a little bit of time on step one together, hey? And actually break down the how of what you should be doing here. Now, there's three key things that you really want to be focusing on when it comes to the how, okay? Clarity, design, and integration, okay? And I'm not just going to be talking about what colors, what fonts, how to make your feed look pretty. No, no. Because branding is so much deeper than that. So we're going into that depth together. So when we talk about clarity, we talk about bridging the gap between who you are now where you are ultimately going, right? So maybe right now you're on $0 in your business. Maybe you've made a couple thousand. Maybe you've made 100,000, right? Wherever you are, we're bridging the gap between there and what you are stepping into. This is the initiation that we've spoken so much about. So there's a couple questions down here. Okay. You can screenshot or you can come back to this training and you can watch the replay. You can take a photo with your phone, but I want you to reflect on those 4 questions. What is your vision and mission? What is it you're actually working towards? Do you even know? Beyond just getting by, beyond just paying bills, what are you actually working towards? What is the big picture? How is that going to impact your family? How is that going to change the lifestyle that you have right now? Think about all those details. How much money do you want to be making? You'll be so surprised with how many people don't even know how much money they want to make, right? They say, I want to make more money. Or they love to say, oh, I want financial freedom. What is financial freedom? In a number. You need to know. You need to put it down. You need to make it something tangible, something measurable. Who do you need to become in order to have those things? Actually reflect on that. What are the habits? What is the mindset? What is the belief? What are the routines? What are the actions of that version of yourself that has those things that you want? I like to do a bit of an audit. I did this the other day where in my journal, I drew a line down my page. And on one side, I wrote out what are all the habits that I'm like, playing out right now? What are the stories I'm telling myself? What are the beliefs that I'm carrying? And what do I need to actually be changing in order to have the business that I want to have? So, do you need to improve your discipline? Do you need to take better care of your health? Do you need to regulate your nervous system even more? If your goal has a physical reaction in your body, you need to start meditating on that. Clorinda, DM me. I've got a great Joe Dispenza meditation that I've been doing, right? Because I too experience that, right? Where you set a goal that's so big, your nervous system actually freaks out because it hasn't regulated itself to that, right? So who do you need to become in order to have those things? And what are your current beliefs? And how do these need to shift in alignment with who you want to become? I became clear on a belief at the end of last year, which was a very interesting one, actually. And this came back to understanding my values. And I was like, I feel like I keep on self-sabotaging myself. I feel like in 2024, although I did a lot of self-growth, I think there was a lot of self-sabotage that was still playing out. And so I went deeper into it. I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Like, why do I have really big months in my business, but then they're always followed by low months? Like, why is there that up and down so much? Like, that is an indication of an unconscious pattern, like an unconscious belief that is playing out in self-sabotage. And I realized that one of my core values is like to feel peace, right? But I carried this belief that reaching that level in my business that I wanted to get to would deprive me of my peace, would take my peace away, right? Whether that's because of experiences I've had personally in the past with business, or whether that's because, my dad, who was like the figure that I looked up to as success, in my life when I was growing up, it didn't look like he had any peace at all. He was stressed 24/7. Sure, he was successful, but he was stressed. And so if my value is to feel peace, but unconsciously I believe that creating more money and more success in my business is not going to bring me peace, I'm going to self-sabotage that, which is why this depth of like personal self-work self-work when it comes to your personal brand is so important because if you don't go through these questions, if you don't have these big conversations with yourself, it doesn't matter how beautiful your design is or how well crafted your content is, you are not going to hold the success that you want to call in, right? Now that brings us to the next thing, design. Now this, again, screenshot, take your photos. If you're watching the replay, pause after I give the explanation. But this is something that you are all going to want to take action on. This is something that I do. Like, I do this with clients who come to me for done for you branding. I do this with clients who want to, like, be in my mastermind, or I did this at my event that I ran the other week, and I do this for myself every single time that I want to reach a new level in my business or redesign my brand. So I want you to, like, in the middle of your page, write down your brand name. So for me, it would be Empower with Them. If you don't have, like, a little name like that, then just put your name, right? Because you are your personal brand. So put Annie or put Meg, right? And then put a big circle around that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to have all these arrows coming off it. And each of these arrows is going to be a brainstorm. Now, these, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. These 6 things are going to be absolutely pivotal for you when it comes to designing a standout personal brand. The first of anything you need to get clear on is your story. You need to get clear on what your brand story actually is. Now, I like to think of your brand story as your hero's journey. What is the journey that you have been on that has led you to where you are right now and is taking you to where you are going? Now, an example of this is breaking down the starting point. Where were you before the business? The turning point. What happened to make you realize that you need to create change? The challenges. What are the challenges? What are the hardships? What are the hurdles you had to overcome to get to the destination? And the destination is the desire, the outcome, right? So if you're already there, if you already are at the destination, you're already making the money in the business. That's what that is. If you're not already making the money in the business, the destination is the journey, right? So the destination is saying, and now that I have been through all this and I have realized all that, I am on a mission to free myself from the 9 to 5. And I've set the goal to do that in the next 12 months, right? It's like making the declaration of where you're going. So it's okay if you're not at the destination yet because you can paint the journey as the destination. And then the fifth part of that story flow is becoming the guide that leads the way for someone else, right? And that's what a lot of you guys are, is your guides in your business, your guides for the next person who's joining you on that journey, right? So that's how you can break down that story. And oh, I have, like, cracked this code like in the past couple weeks where I've mapped out like hero journeys for my clients. I've taken that, I've slapped that into ChatGPT. So if you break down your hero's journey strong enough and clear enough, slap that into ChatGPT and then ask it, knowing this journey, tell me what my ideal clients' challenges, reality, emotions, and desires are. And based off your own journey and the depth of detail, the depth of emotion, the experiences, the challenges that you put into that, the fears, it's going to give you a clearer ideal client profile than you will have ever seen in your entire life. Right? And then what can you do with that? ChatGPT, knowing my ideal client now, please create me detailed hooks to speak directly to them in my content. And then boom, you're going to have the juiciest the juiciest content pieces that are going to literally pierce your ideal client in the heart with emotion. And they're going to be reading your content like, oh my God, she gets me. How did she know this? Did she read my journal? Did she read my mind? Technically, you did read their mind because you put yourself in their mind because really they're just the old version of you, right? Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate that. I always love the little votes of confidence. So that's the second thing is getting to know your ideal client because your brand isn't actually about you. Anyone who ever has ever told you that your brand is about you is lying to you and they don't know the first thing about branding because your brand is not about you, it is about your ideal client, right? We can use your story and we should use your story to build your brand, but it's to connect and speak to your ideal client, right? We talk about creating perception. What is the perception that your ideal client needs to have of you in order to move forward, right? So your brand is about your ideal client. So that's the second thing to focus on. The third thing we're going to jump on back over here, uniquities. What are the things that make you unique? Even if you don't think it makes you unique, what are the things that make you unique? Some of my examples is my secret talent is art, like drawing. That's something that makes me unique. My hair is like really thick and lush and curly. That makes me unique, right? So pay attention to those things, whether they're physical, whether it's something to do with a skill you have, or even if it's something like an experience you've had. You know, the fact that you've got children makes you unique, right? Doesn't matter however many other women out there have children as well. That is a uniquity of you. That is something that separates you from likely the next. Maybe you're really into crystals. That's a uniquity. Maybe you're a psychopath who loves to run marathons. That's a uniquity, right? Just think about those things that make you unique. Maybe you're really goofy. And when you go bike riding, you stack your bike and hit your head because you're clumsy. Go. Right? Like think about all those things. They're uniquities that you can bring through. That's to do with like your personality, like whatever it may be. Maybe you're a bit of a tomboy. I don't know what it is. Maybe you don't shave your armpits. Whatever it is. Figure out what makes you unique and brainstorm them. What are your values? Now, we're not going to do a training on values today, but you can Google values. I can tell you what values are briefly. Values are basically things that there's certain things that you allow to dictate the decisions and the way that you ultimately live your life. So if you value love, you're going to make decisions that are in alignment with love. If you value peace, like what I said before, like, you know, with that example I shared about peace being a value of mine, that value of peace then dictates how I do things unconsciously or consciously, right? So some values could be freedom, love, peace. Apparently family isn't a value, so I don't know if you I'd say that would fall under love. Rather than like because a value isn't something tangible is the explanation I heard on that one specifically. Um yeah, but you know, freedom, love, peace, adventure, you know, these are all values. Um, so start to brainstorm what are the things that you value, right? Because when you're clear on what your values are, you can speak and communicate into that in your content, which is then going to align with other people who value the same things that you value. Okay. Spirituality would be a value, you know, religion. If you're very religious, then like that's something you should bring through in your brand if that's who you want to be attracting back, right? The next thing is experiences. So I want you to start to brainstorm what are unique experiences you've had in your life, right? For the mums, like your birth story will be a very unique experience for you. So if like you're a mom and being a mom is part of your brand, then I would suggest maybe talking about your own birth stories if that's something you're open to sharing, because I bet that like Clorinda's is different to Co's, right? So, what unique experiences you had? I mentioned earlier I traveled solo for 6 months across Canada. That's a unique experience to me. Other examples of experiences are I was in a domestic violence relationship, right? That's something that is unique to my journey. But if I speak into that in my brand, there are going to be other women who resonate with that as well, right? In fact, I ran an event earlier last year, and at that event I shared my story, briefly talking into like that relationship I had, and someone actually signed up to a high ticket program with me after that event because I shared my DV story. That was the selling point for her because she said, "You understand what I've been through, and therefore I want to work with you and not the next coach." So, really, that relationship has nothing to do with what I teach, but it also has everything to do with what I teach because of the experience. Because I learned how to hold a business whilst also holding myself through that relationship. So, does that not show then that I can help hold you as you build your business and you build your brand through whatever it is that you go through on a emotional level as well, right? So, this is where you can start to create those ties. Other experiences, I don't know. Has anyone got a cool experience? Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom. That's an experience. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, and right now your husband is the main provider of the family. That is an experience. IVF, that is an experience. Thanks for sharing that, Lucy. Right? So think about those things. Think about those unique experiences that you've had in your life, because that is going to become something that you can share in your brand. And also, you don't have to share everything. You don't have to share everything. It is entirely up to you where the boundary is of like what you do feel open with sharing. I'm like pretty open, especially like once you get to know me, then I'm like extremely open and it's like the point of no return, right? So you get to decide how much you want to share, how much you don't want to share. You get to decide what boundaries you have. Actually, one thing I share, some people actually sometimes go, "Oh, I didn't even realize you're in a relationship." Because like I actually don't share too much of my relationship on social media. I shared a bit at New Year's, like I put a video up of me and my partner like kissing with the fireworks. But other than that, I don't really talk much about my relationship on social media. Why? Because that's a boundary. Because he's a lot more private than I am. So I just don't really post about it much, right? So figure out what those boundaries are for you. Traveling across the world with your kids. Yes, FIFO family. Yeah, that's a big one. I've had a couple calls with a couple different people in Enagic in the last week who will do FIFO and really creating like a unique angle on that FIFO story, right? That's going to come in to that hero's journey that you're on. That's going to come into the why, the mission of what you're doing, why you're creating what you're creating. So that's definitely an experience to speak into. All right. Last but not least, we have the sensory experience. Now, this one is a big one. This is what really separates a brand from a brand, right? You want to be the brand upon brands, not the brand. So the sensory experience, this is as literal as it sounds. It's starting to think about how someone interacts with your brand on a sensory level. What do they hear? What do they see? What do they smell? What do they touch? What do they feel? What do they taste? Right? And if you're going, "But Emily, no one can smell my brand through the phone screen." Wrong. If you do a good enough job when it comes to design and when it comes to bringing those those visual elements into your brand, people can smell you. People can smell your brand. People can taste your brand. If you want your brand to taste like marshmallows, like hot chocolate, if you want it to feel like someone's sitting next to a fireplace while they're consuming your content, snuggled up on a cold day, this is where you start to play with the senses. Now, you can play with the senses in a physical sense if you are running events in person, but then you can also play with it on a non-physical sense. So what I would really, really, really urge you all to do is this fun little Pinterest activity where you brainstorm all of the senses that like you feel resonate with your brand. So maybe your brand smells or sounds like the ocean. Maybe it smells like a rainforest, or maybe it smells like cinnamon candles. Whatever it is, right? Brainstorm all of those things, all of those sensory experiences. What are they touching? Are they touching silk? Or is it, I don't know, what's another touch? What do I like touching? I like touching suede. I think this is suede on my chair. Does my brand feel like suede? What do you want people to feel like when they touch your brand? Brainstorm all of those things and then go into Pinterest and start to find visual representations of these things and create a Pinterest board of all of those elements. I'll show you an example of this next as well. But once you've had that, then you can start to draw upon that when it comes to integrating your design into the graphics, into the media, like all of that into your feed and so on. Yeah, I want toast and marshmallows by the ocean too. Unfortunately, I have to settle for chicken pesto tonight, which I made before this call. Thought of future M, who's going to be so hungry after all this talking. All right. So the last piece I want to show you on design is this. This here is an example of that visual concept that can come from doing this brainstorm, right? So if you go through, if you ask yourself all those questions, you brainstorm everything in detail, and then you start to go through Pinterest and you start to search for those things, then you start to come up with this visual concept, right? And this is going to help you when it then comes to refining your design. So this is just an example of one of my clients that I've worked with. And I thought this would be an interesting one to share because he's in the health space. And so we wanted to start to look at how can we bring some unique elements through the design of his brand. And a big thing that came up was he's all about, like his slogan is living the full spectrum, like allowing yourself to experience the full spectrum of emotion. So they were some like indications of what I then like kept in mind when going and diving into that design process. And then we started to pull out the color spectrum, the light spectrum. And then we brought that into his design, into his brand colors. Then we took from this Pinterest board and adapted what we liked into his feed design as well. So if you do a really good job of this stage in the process, then you're going to get some really beautiful designs coming through when you move to this step. But I will express to you guys as well, I don't want you to be holding yourself back with your brand because you feel like your design isn't up to scratch. Okay? Be taking action, be moving forward. Design is something that refines over time, especially with skill. In fact, with my business, I am constantly evolving my design to the point where I will not stop posting. I will not stop putting content out and sharing my message because I know that the design I have this month, it's going to be a heck of a lot better next month because I'm going to be refining it every single day because I'm obsessed. It's what I do, right? So don't hold yourself back just because you feel like you don't have, the most aesthetic design yet. Now, last but not least is integration. Okay? You've gotten the clarity, you've figured out your design, and now it's about integrating. It's about actually bringing your brand to life through your content, putting an actual content strategy in place so that you're not just posting willy-nilly, but you're posting with real intention. And the second part of integration is actually embodiment. It's one thing to post online and position yourself in one way and say you do one thing. It's another thing to embody it. It's another thing to actually live the brand. Your personal brand should not stop at your business. Your personal brand is you. You don't even need to have a business in order to have a personal brand. So make sure you are being a true embodiment of that brand that you're wanting to create, those values that you live by, that mission that you are on. those beliefs that you preach. This is where it becomes about showing up with integrity, building a brand with integrity. Now, obviously, I can't train you guys for hours and hours and hours tonight, so I've got a little present for you all. Since this last stage is so important, the integration stage, and it's also a stage that so many people struggle with, I got a little gifty do for you guys. So, if you want to get access to my 30-day brand plan, for free, by the way. This is a 30-day plan, which is literally designed to increase your brand awareness, establish your authority, and build trust and engagement with your audience. All you have to do is DM me the word plan on Instagram. And I will send you through a document which literally has 30 days of content ideas already mapped out for you, different ideas for every single day, plus specific call to actions to go with each. So what that means is your next 30 days of your brand building on social media, the thinking's taken out of it for you. Sound good? Beautiful. So last but not least, let's do a little bit of a recap because I know we've gone through a lot today. I know we've had a lot of conversations about different things that are important about branding. So to recap, to summarize, personal branding is an initiation into a higher level of self. Perception is the key to quantum leaping your success. When you can control the perception you have of yourself and the perception others have of you, money will flow to you in your business. I'm telling you. Attempting to sell without building a brand first will not convert. Why? Because they give people the ick, the cheese touch. Don't forget. And then the success of your marketing comes down to the strength of your brand. Okay. And then we just went through those three keys, the 3 steps of clarity, design, and integration. Give me some yeses in the chat box if this has been good, guys. There's been lots of value in this. Amazing. Now, before we move into the Q&A section, a little reminder about the social media brand audit that I'll be giving away for you guys. Okay, so if you haven't already, when we do the Q&A, take your photo, tag myself, put it on Instagram because I'll be drawing that within the 10 minutes after this Zoom call ends. Okay, and then outside of that, if anyone is interested in going any deeper into their personal branding, please feel free to ask. My inbox is always open on Instagram. So if you would like to explore what that looks like with me, then you can just ask away. Okay. But with all that said and done, that is the training I have for you guys today. So I want to hold as much space as we need to do Q&As to make sure everyone knows exactly what they're doing from here. Alrighty.
That was so amazing, Emily. Thank you so much. You honestly are a wealth of knowledge. If anyone has questions, I guess we can just like do a little virtual raise of our hands and then we can just go in order. Does that work for you, Emily?
Yeah, that works great.
Yeah, perfect. I think Lucy had her hand up first. So take it away,
Oh,
Luce.
thanks, babe. And that was awesome. Thank you so much. My question is, I have 2 businesses and I utilize the one Instagram to obviously speak to my audience. So I'm a birth worker and I've also got the high ticket affiliate marketing with Enagic. So you did say that to speak into one clear message, how would you, well, what would be your advice if you were like me and you were a multi-business owner with one Instagram page?
So what were the 2 businesses? You've got Enagic and then the other one was what, sorry?
I'm a birth worker.
A birth worker. So what does birth worker do?
So I can support women through postpartum, birth and pregnancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So is the ideal client that you're wanting to call in mums for your Enagic business?
The ideal client that I wanting to call in are mums not wanting to return to work after maternity.
Perfect. So it works fine then, right? Because if the ideal client is the same, you can build it on the same page. You just then need to learn how to be really clear with when you're communicating like different offers. Like
Okay.
clearly speaking into the difference of them, right? Because it's the same ideal client, that works great. Then it's just a matter of like you have your birth working over here, you have your Enagic over here. I would create an intentional split on how you actually promote each. And I'd probably say for you, a lot of the qualifying will happen in the DMs anyway, where you're having a conversation with them and you're finding out like, oh, they need in need of a birth worker right now. Well, if they're in need of a birth worker right now, then I'm probably not going to pitch them a Enagic anyway if they're like on the cusp of birth and that's like their main priority right this second. Right. So you'll like differentiate anyhow, and then you'll probably upsell people from your birth working into your Enagic after they've gone through that experience with you. Because if they're then, a new mom and don't want to go back to work, then they're looking for that next step anyway. So a lot of that qualifying will happen in the back end for you in the DM conversations. And I would just, yeah, create really clean and intentional separation when you're posting, like, don't post about both on the same day. Like, don't call out, people who are wanting birth working the same day as, the people you're calling out for the online business, essentially. That would be the cleanest way to break it apart for you.
Okay. And just one more question. So I know I speak into my stories a lot as well in regards to that. So would you make the definition be really clear cut with that as well? Like only speak in your stories about birth work if you're sharing birth work on your page and your content that day and then go into an adjunct the next day or what?
Yeah,
Yes?
I'd keep like congruent. So like if you're making a post that's a Nagic specific on your feed, then yeah, I would keep what's on your stories the same, like congruent with what you've posted on the feed. Because let's say, for example, like, someone's just seen a post of yours pop up, they want to now suss out your page, they go and look at your stories and they're confused because you were talking about creating a business here, but then now here you're talking about giving birth. Like
Yeah.
so I would definitely keep it like if you're posting about the business on your feed one day, also speak into your stories about the business as well, but just do a slightly different like angle of both.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank
Awesome.
you so
Amazing.
much.
No worries.
I have a question if no one else is going to go. I did see someone pop in the comments a little bit earlier, which I kind of resonated with it too. It's how do you best stop, I guess, fear getting in the way of you sharing authentically and being, I guess, the real you?
How do you not let fear get in the way of sharing authentically and being the real you?
Hmm.
Yeah, great question. I just connect back to like the vision, right? Like where I'm going. And I remind myself of, like the vision board I've got on the wall, where I want to be, the goals I want to hit. I'm not going to get there if I keep letting fear hold me back. I'm not going to get there if I don't show up as my fullest self, right? So I connect back to the vision and I actually like sit with the opportunity cost of letting the fear dictate the way that I'm showing up, living my life, running my business, right? And the opportunity cost of that is then not having the things that I ultimately want to have. So for me, I just put it in perspective in that sense where it's like, cool, I can let this fear play out, but am I going to be okay with the result that that's going to bring? And yes, it is scary at the start, like being vulnerable and showing up and like trying to be like real and raw and open. But when you can like get past the emotion and like remind yourself of that potential that you're missing out of, I always ask the question of what is the potential I'm missing out on because of an emotion that I'm trying to avoid, right? You're not wanting to show up online and be your authentic self because maybe the emotion you're trying to avoid is rejection and then like not feeling good enough because of that rejection or shame or whatever it may be. Like get clear on what that root fear is first, like that root emotion is that's behind the fear, and then hold yourself through that. Like regulate your nervous system to also be okay with feeling that very thing, knowing that you will be okay if you do experience that, and then you will also move forward and you will overcome that as you're growing into the person and becoming that person who has all those things that you want. So yeah, I just remind myself of the opportunity cost of letting that fear dictate me and then just step into courage. Who was it? Someone said, maybe, I don't know who it was, but someone said all you need is like a couple seconds of courage. Like literally just a couple seconds of courage. Just you don't need to be confident. You can be scared, but you just need to be courageous enough to actually do the thing. And then that's going to prove to yourself that you are capable of doing the thing. It's going to create a result, it's going to build belief, and then that's going to drive more action, right? So a couple seconds of courage then sends that trigger effect. Does that answer your question?
That was perfect. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I have one more question.
Hey, go
Um,
for it.
it's in regards to the marketing campaigns,
Mm,
and how you said to set these up when you're having more engagement with your content and you see an increase in your following or a
mm,
consistent increase in your following.
mm.
What do you mean by consistent increase? Could you
Yeah,
go
just
through
like
it?
that you're seeing traction. Like, for example, if you always get like, I like to look at metrics. So I like to look at a couple different metrics. So your first and foremost metric is going and looking at the views that you get on your reels, or like the views or the likes that you get on like your carousels, like literally looking at the metrics on the content pieces. Another metric would be like shares, saves, um, people sending you DMs or replying to your stories, or if like, you're putting up polls and there's like lots of interactions and engagements of them. There's so many different metrics that you can look at in terms of like forms of engagement. So it's just, yeah, paying attention to how that's like starting to compound. And if you're starting to consistently see like that there's growth happening with that and there's result coming from that. So that could literally be as simple as like consistently having people like responding on your polls. Or that could be as simple as actually having someone come through and send you a message being like, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. Or leaving comments on the post that you're saying that it really resonates, right? Like any sort of indication to show that the content that you're putting out, like the efforts that you're putting out to build your brand, are creating some sort of a response from your audience. Followers as well is also a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you
No
so much.
worries.
Did
And
anyone else have any questions? Oh, you go, Emily. Sorry.
oh yeah, I was gonna say on that as well. Remember, guys, there's like so many different measures of like result and performance. So if yes, your reach is one, like the views you get on your reels is one, but it's not the be all and end all. Like really, you want to be looking at shares, comments, saves, and seeing like you could have a reel that you put up that only gets like 200 views. But if you get like one or two really aligned followers from that who match your ideal client, like that's a win. So don't just think that like virality is the only metric because it's not the only metric. Okay.
Amazing.
Cody, do you have a question?
Hey, I have been out of action for a while, and to be honest, I've been inconsistent since I started. I don't think I've ever been consistent. Um, Everyone I've sold to has known me personally in the past, so they know what I'm about and that I love adventure, and I'm a YOLO person, so I'll say yes to anything and I'll make shit happen.
Yeah.
Um, I want to share my birth story soon, and I've been holding off because I have this like I want to share about like adventures with kids and stuff like that, like how I don't want my life to change just because I've had a kid. Um, but I don't want to share pictures of my baby yet. Like I'm still in the like I feel like I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that, which is a reason why I haven't shared anything, to be honest. So, how would you be speaking about children and then not showing your kid? Like, is it just the sneaky photos of like the back of her head? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've taken some cool pictures to announce it, which I'll share. But yeah, I'm just like, how do I do that transition? Because it's always been me, and now it's going to be me and my baby, but not wanting to show all of that.
Yeah. That's so fine. Yeah, you can either do like back of the head and like in any photo that you post with the kids, like, even if you're facing the front, like get your kid to turn around and just do the back of their head type thing. Or you can just like scribble off their faces. Like literally like go into Canva and get like the black pen and scribble over their face so that people like can't identify them. And that's so fine. Like I've seen plenty of accounts who do that and they actually like put an emoji over their kid's head or something like that, so that they can still have the context of the kid whilst keeping the kid's like, identity hidden. So yeah, that would probably be the simplest approach if you're comfortable like doing that. Do you care if like part of their bodies in it, or like don't want any
Oh
like
yeah, like I'll do all of that. I guess it's just, yeah, the face.
yeah,
Um,
just stick an
yeah,
emoji.
yeah, yeah.
Stick an emoji, a little monkey emoji. Here's my little monkey. Don't even say their name if you don't want to. Here's my little monkey.
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever. And that's so fine. It's yeah, and I think that's great to know that that's a boundary of yours as well. And it
yeah,
is like I saw Clarinda said, it does act as a hook, right? Because it's like curious. It's like, oh, can I I want to see something. I can't see anything. But like, it gets people it gets the curiosity running. So that's so fine.
yeah.
Mm,
Thanks, Sam.
no worries. I've even seen people do that with their boyfriends. There's this one fitness chick that I follow, and I think it's like her boyfriend's choice. Like he doesn't want his face in like the content, and she literally like will either prop the photo of his head out from here, like because he's really tall, or she'll just like put a black box, or he'll just like face the other way in all the photos. It's so funny. Love it. Any final questions from anyone? Meg, Annie? Oh, we got some couple on just listening as well.
I have one more question, if that's okay.
Go
I
for
wanted
it.
to ask you about trending audio
Oh yeah.
because obviously trending audio is being like, always jump on there. And if it's under 4,000, make sure you get on it and do all of those things. But I just don't vibe with trending audio.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you get, obviously, I know, actually, I probably know the answer to this question already. I have to, get a hook and do all of the things and speak to my ideal client to actually get that growth and get it seen by other people. But is there a particular place that you would go for audio that's not trending but is still works really well?
Yeah, so obviously trending audio has some benefits. I don't really know the full science behind how to like crack the code with trending audios, but I find that using because Instagram's upgraded its features so much, it now has a section when you actually go to add music to your reels. It has a trending section and it's got like a list of number one all the way to like I don't know what the number goes to. And so I try to use the ones that are in like the top five, assuming they have an arrow pointing up. If they have a red arrow pointing down, then that says that yes, it's like trending, but it's also on a decline. So you're probably better off not using it because it's already past its peak. It's coming back down again. So aim for the ones in that trending audio section that have the arrow pointing up, or are just like sitting at the top without any arrow like pointing down. Because that's going to be like a good indication of like what's getting traction. The other thing that I would look at as well is I will do like a little scroll through Reels and just see if there's any audios that have come up multiple times as I've done that quick scroll. Because if there's an audio that's come up multiple times, then that's going to indicate that, okay, that's obviously getting shown. And then, yeah, I mean, that's like pretty much the depth of where I go with trending audios. But you don't need trending audios to obviously go viral. The biggest factor, like you can use a trending audio and completely flop because your messaging is shit. Like you have a shit message, you're not speaking to your ideal client, the way you're producing content isn't like captivating and engaging and like building curiosity. Like there's so many other factors other than just the music. In
Mm.
fact, I'd say the music is one of like the lower factors. So you really want to make sure that that message that like you're putting on the content is hitting hard. If it's going to be like a B-roll with just text, Clorinda, like you've had huge success with that before, where you've like spoken into messages that have just like absolutely like pierced into bums, that then it's like gotten the traction. So the message is the most important thing. So really you've got to test to find what that is. You've got to like post something with intention and then actually see how did this perform? Why did it perform this way? And then revise and test again.
Okay.
An example of this that I can show I suppose I can show you. I can pull up my Instagram quickly. Is the message that really seems to be landing with my audience when it comes to like B-rolls is basically saying you're not burnt out. you're just lazy. You're not burnt out, you're just like discipline,
Yeah.
and your lack of discipline has become a justification for your laziness. So this was the first one that I posted with that. It's almost got 10K views, like 23 comments in total. And the message on that was, let's normalize working longer days and late nights towards your goal again, and decide it's time to stop using burnout as a justification for your lack of discipline and focus. There were
Mm.
there was layers to this getting views. The first, the messaging, landing hard, that promotes interaction, promotes people engaging, promotes people sharing. The second thing, the visual hook, right? So I nailed the written hook, then I nailed the visual hook, where this is like, it's breaking the scroll of what everyone else does because of the I think it's the lighting, and I think the super duper. The super duper I intentionally used because I'm like, I think this is going to like hook people in. Human minds are weird. We like to watch weird things. Like you could literally sit, I'm gonna grab my pens. You could literally sit on a video and you can be talking and you can be going like this and you're still talking and you can just start dropping pens and people are going to be watching and they're like, I don't know why I'm watching you right now, but I'm just going to keep on watching and see where this goes. So the visual hook, very, very, very important. And then the last thing, this audio was an audio that I had seen one of my friends got like 1 million views on. But I kind of jumped on a bit late anyway, but I was like, fuck it, she got 1 million views. Like, I'm going to try using this anyway. So again, I think the audio contributed in that layer as well, but it wasn't just one thing, it was layers
Mhm.
that got that result. So yeah, just bear that in mind that like audio isn't the be all and end all. It's about layering those different hooks, the visual hook, the audio hook, and the written hook. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Everyone's good, everyone's tired, everyone's ready for bed. What is it, like 9 o'clock for you guys now?
Yep, it's 9 o'clock, 9:05 on the dot.
Amazing.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, I'll let you go
Um,
off, Linda.
yes, if everyone wanted to come off and say thank you, yeah, that was amazing. And thank you for all of the knowledge that you shared, Emily. And look out for the giveaway. Don't forget to share a story so you can be in the running to win that as well. Because, yeah, honestly, you don't want to miss out on that one. All right. Thanks so much,
Thank
lovely.
you.
Thanks, Em.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.